31 through 45. It's going to be a long one. You, O king, were looking, and behold, there was a single great statue. That statue, which was large and of extraordinary splendor, was standing in front of you, and its appearance was awesome. The head of that statue was made of fine gold, its breast and its arms of silver, its belly and its thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of clay. You continued looking until the statue was cut out without hands, and it struck the statue until the stone was cut out without hands, and it struck the statue on its feet of iron and clay and crushed them. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold were crushed all at the same time and became like chaff from the summer thrashing floors. And the wind carried them away, so that not a trace of them was found, but the stone that struck the statue became a giant mountain and filled the whole earth. This was a dream. Now we will tell its interpretation before the king. You, O king, are the King of kings, to whom God, the God of heaven, has given the kingdom, the power, and the strength, and the glory. And wherever the sons of men dwell, of the beasts of the field or the birds of the sky, he has given them into your hands and has caused you to rule over them all. You are the head of gold. After you, there will rise another kingdom. There will rise another kingdom inferior to you. Then another third kingdom of bronze will rule over all the earth. And then there will be a fourth kingdom as strong as iron, inasmuch as iron crushes and shatters all things, so like iron that breaks in pieces. It will crush and break all these in pieces. In that you saw the feet and the toes, partly of potter's clay and partly of iron. It will be a divided kingdom, but it will have in it the toughest of iron, inasmuch as you saw the iron mixed with common clay. As the toes of the feet were partly of iron and partly of pottery, so some of the kingdom will be strong, and part of it will be brittle. And in that you saw the iron mixed with common clay, they will combine with another in the seed of men, but they will not adhere to one another, even as iron does not combine with pottery. In the days of the kings of God of heaven, will set up a kingdom which will never be destroyed, and that kingdom will not be left for another people. It will crush and put an end to all these kingdoms, but it will itself endure forever. Inasmuch as you saw that a statue was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it crushed the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold. The great God has made known to the king what will take place in the future, so that the dream is true and its interpretation is trustworthy.
Today, we're going to be looking at the very first in a series of prophecies in the book of Daniel. The very first in a series. Last week, we spoke about how important correct and true prophecies are to Christianity. I spoke for 44 minutes and 12 seconds on that, according to my recording device. So I went a little bit over, so this time I'm going to try not to go over. I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm going to give it a shot. Now, this is important not only for what I mentioned last week, but also, as Daniel said earlier in this very chapter of the book, as for the mystery about which the king is inquired, neither wise men, conjurers, magicians, nor diviners are able to declare it to the king. However, there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries, and he's made known to King Nebuchadnezzar what will take place in the latter days. This was your dream and the visions in your mind while you were in bed. That was Daniel chapter 2, verse 27b and 28. Now, something that we should notice through this entire sermon is that the best of humanity could not tell us what Daniel was about to tell us about the future. No one in Babylon could do it, even though they were under a threat of death. King Nebuchadnezzar told all those people, the wise men, the conjurers, the magicians, and diviners, that he would have them all killed one at a time, well, maybe in a group. They would all be killed if they could not tell him what his dream was. And they couldn't do it. They said, "Great king," I'm paraphrasing here a little bit, "Great king, this is sort of outrageous. No man could do this. Why are you having us do it?" And Nebuchadnezzar said, "Well, that's the test. Either you can do it or you're going to get put to death." So Daniel came and told the king that he would tell him that. Now, no man could do it, but God could. That is something extraordinarily important that ties last week's sermon to this. The things that we are reading in the scripture are God's words. They are directly from God. He is the God who is sovereign, who superintended the writing of scripture to ensure that every single word in the original manuscripts was exactly what he wanted it to be. And the book of Daniel and some of the prophecies we're going to be talking about today and also next week, the confirmed prophecies in the book of Daniel show that there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries. That he has made known to King Nebuchadnezzar and to us that his presence, they reveal him. Daniel makes it very clear in this book that God is the one who's doing it, not him. He's being humble in a way that is very, very something to be admired in him. I mean, think about it. When you're right and you know you're right all the time, well, you know you're right, don't you get a little bit prideful about being right? I do a lot. And that's something King Nebuchadnezzar that we're going to deal with later. Something happened to King Nebuchadnezzar. But Daniel makes it very, very clear all of the time that it's God doing it and not him. So, there is a God who reveals mysteries. Now, let's see what he revealed in the year 520, the date of authorship of that book. I would strongly suggest, do you remember the year 520? Remember when I did the numbers last week? This is the same thing, the year 520. As we saw last week, all the late dates for the book of Daniel make no sense whatsoever. So all of these prophecies that we're going to talk about today were written down in the year 520. Remember that for later. So let's start. Daniel begins. "You, O king, were looking and behold, there was a single great statue. That statue, which was large and its extraordinary splendor, was standing in front of you, and its appearance was awesome. The head of the statue was made of gold, its breast and arms of silver, its bellies and thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of clay. You continued looking until a stone was cut out without hands and struck the statue in its feet of iron and clay and crushed it." Now, this particular prophecy, along with most of the prophecies in Scripture, is done in symbols. In fact, I spent a good portion of the time when I was writing this sermon trying to think of a prophecy that was not done in symbols, and I couldn't come up with one. Symbolism and prophecy go hand in hand. Now, the trick is for us to find out what was literally meant by the symbols. Think about it. When you're talking to someone, you say, "Well, it's like this." It's a symbol that's easily understood. It's not something, well, for example, a good example that I thought of this morning for this sermon. Okay, the rest of the sermon, blue. Does that make any sense? How about red? That makes no sense whatsoever, because symbols only work if there's some kind of commonality to them.